still in my house. I've asked them to leave. Do you mind leaving my property?
No, I'm not leaving until I take up my flooring.
You have no right to be standing in our house at the moment. I don't want you in our house. You were in here with a hammer, pushing me and shoving me.
I didn't have a hammer.
This man was hired to sand and refinish a wooden floor. The customer Hilal is not happy with the work and is refusing to pay in full.
They're refusing to leave my property after I just disputed the quality of the work on this floor.
This professional has decided that the best thing to do is to destroy his own work and rip up the floor.
We're waiting until the police come until we take the flooring up that we've put down.
I've wanted to tell this story for a long time now, but I've been unable to because of the ongoing court battle. This video was just going to be me sanding and refinishing someone else's bad work, which I thought was going to be great for YouTube. Little did I know just how messed up this situation was.
So he took me to court, obviously, because he wasn't happy that we didn't pay.
I recently had a chance to catch up with Hilal on Zoom, so we're going to get into everything to do with the floor and what happened and how they eventually went to court. First, I need to start with exactly where I think Hilal went wrong, as it's a lesson I think we can all learn about hiring contractors.
It was just a Google search in terms of like wood flooring, restoration services in my local area. It came up with a number of 5-star reviews.
Did you get many quotes?
I reckon around 6 or 7 quotes.
Oh, really? Wow.
It was a last step of the house renovation that we were doing. So we kind of wanted to go by who had availability at that time. Most of the people were like, okay, yeah, we can do this, but it's going to be 6 months from now when we can start. It wasn't so much the price. Everyone's price was in the same ballpark. The first red flag should have been, it was called cleaning services, and they offered wood flooring restoration as part of their services.
Yeah.
He had quite a good page on his website in terms of he knew the process, he knew the steps, he had outlined everything that they would do. And then they had included some pictures of schools that they had done and hotels. And so I said, okay, let me get this guy in to come and do a quote. I'll feel him out. I'll see what he's like. Everything seemed good in terms of first impressions. And he didn't want to take payment up front. He wanted to take it after the work was completed.
So Hilal got baffled with bullshit, basically, which is okay because it's hard to tell if what you're being told is true or false. Even if it is true, it might seem like expert knowledge when in reality they just have a knowledge advantage because they know 20% and you know 0%.
It was just seemed very genuine and very trusting and super chilled in terms of like he wasn't afraid to kind of have a wider conversation about how he can help in different parts of the house. I guess that was another red flag, like he wasn't a specialist in a certain area. There was also a bit of question about what wood it was. So a few people were saying it was teak, and we kind of wanted to see what take on it was. He knew where it come from and what tree, and he gave us reasoning about why it was that wood. So we had some confidence in him at the start.
If any of the other people you got quotes from were available, would you have gone with them?
Yeah, 100%. And they were all Bonner certified and other company certified. Hagler, maybe, what's it called? Is it Hagler?
Lagler,
yeah. So Lagler certified. And obviously knowing now how important those things are to have, I would have 100% gone with them. They just were obviously not available for a reason, because they were busy and they were good. So when I messaged you for a bit of advice, that was probably 2 days into their work, because after seeing the sanding marks, just the logical part of my brain made me think, surely these shouldn't be that obvious now. I know they're going to do another layer of sanding, another layer of buffing, but they were super deep marks. So I messaged you straight away. And obviously I wasn't happy because they were everywhere. They were literally everywhere. You could just see the rotor marks, the drum marks. And I just had a feeling that something wasn't quite right. But yeah, when it was finished, it was shocking and super frustrating, just given the amount of time we had spent on it and the amount of back and forth that had been happening and the fact that it was the last thing we were doing to end on that note.
Tiles with chips in them, significantly deep chips. And then that have not been filled. So this area around the fireplace was repaired by the company. This was all added in using tiles we provided. And again, they've used tiles with large chips in them. They've not cut these ones to the correct shape, which means it's left with these uneven, unmatched finishes which haven't been filled properly, and pretty large gaps that haven't been filled appropriately here.
The flooring was quite old. I remember someone said it might have been around 50 to 60 years old. It was under a few layers of carpet, so no one had used it for a long time. And we wanted it to be kind of like the statement piece of the house, the final touch, and we wanted it to be absolutely perfect.
Sort of grouty, masticing material. Just a horrible, horrible filling. There's sand marks everywhere, such as those lines there. Just sort of everywhere you walk, there are uneven finishes, sanding marks, buffing marks here. As you can see, they are also present in many, many areas. They are sort of everywhere. The finish is just completely uneven.
How long did the job take?
It took about 2.5 weeks start to finish. It was they just kept coming back, kept lacquering the floor. I don't know, obviously, the process, but I learned a lot from you and watching your videos. But they would lacquer and then re-sand the floor, which would take the lacquer off, and then they would lacquer again and then re-sand. It took them a long time.
So were they there for the full days when they were there?
They would kind of drop in and out. So sometimes they were there for a full day. Sometimes they were there for an hour or two. We left them with the key because there was nothing else in the house. It was just a work site at that point. So timing wasn't their strong point for sure.
2.5 weeks, that is insane.
Yeah. I kept saying to them, I can see sanding marks underneath that you're not getting to. And I would text him being like, hey, John, hope you're well. Just double checking that you're going to get these sanding marks out. And he'd be like, yeah, we've just got one more day of sanding left to do. Got to the final day, which was Christmas Eve. And they came on Christmas Eve to re-lacquer and do another thing that they had been doing. I was like, if you're not going to get these out today, then we need to stop the job.
It's a lot harder than people realise to actually do a good finish. The thing is what he did, any DIY can do that. That was pretty bad.
Some sort of strange marking here where the lacquer hasn't been applied properly. The floor's completely rough. Areas like this that were chipped and dented have just been filled like this. Chips have been left in many areas. It was the size of a fingernail. Visible everywhere, holes in the floor. That should have been fixed.
You were concerned and you were raising your concerns with him throughout the whole process. Way before it was done, you must have been thinking this is not right.
Yeah, and that was a big part of the court case at the end. Is I had evidence that I was sending him messages after every day that they had been there, saying, "I can see these sanding marks. I just want to double check that these will definitely come out." And then he would be like, "Yeah, absolutely fine. We'll get those out by tomorrow. They'll be gone. You won't see them." And then they'd still be there after the next day. So I'd send him another text. I'd be like, hey, I'm really getting a bit concerned now because they're not going, and I can see that you're just building up layers of lacquer. It doesn't make sense. You're going to be able to get these out. And he's like, no, we're going to finish. We've still got buffing to do and all this. And then it got all the way to the last day when they were just going to do another layer of lacquer. And that's when I said, you haven't fixed any of these issues that I've been raising from the very start. And I don't think a layer of lacquer and another buff is going to do anything to resolve them. And then that's when, everything went
pear-shaped.
Yeah, pear-shaped.
They're refusing to leave my property after I just disputed the quality of the work on this floor. He pushed me first when we were in the room. Deny that if he wants, call me and all this while I was on the phone to the police. Still in my house. I've asked him to leave. Do you mind leaving my property?
No, I'm not leaving
Okay,
until I
there we
take
go.
up my flooring.
Yep, so
I'll
the
take
police
up
are
my
on their
flooring,
way.
yeah,
Yo,
that's good.
can you leave my property?
No, he's not leaving. We're waiting here until the police come until we take the flooring up that we've put down.
I don't want you to do it under no one's
There's
supervision.
nothing. I'm just filming the floor. Excuse me, I'm not moving. I don't want to walk in your house. I just want to film what I've done.
You can't film inside my property.
What?
You cannot film inside a private space. That is breaking the law as well.
You can't film my face.
It's my property.
You can't film
It's my
me.
property.
You cannot
So I
film
can.
me.
You're in my house, I've asked you to leave and you're refusing to leave.
In the doorway on the final day when he came in, I said, look, I'm not happy with how it's gone so far. We need to figure out what you're going to do today, whether I pay you a certain amount for what you have done or you get these sanding marks out. And then he just flipped on that at that point. So we didn't even get into the conversation about what I could pay him. We would have genuinely paid 50% and just had someone else come and finish it properly.
Which is very generous, in my opinion.
Well, obviously, until you came along, we didn't actually know what had to be done. So we thought, okay, it looks better than before, so we'll pay him 50%, not knowing that we had to do a full resand and restart the whole job again.
You say he flipped. Like, was it at that point that he was trying to push his way into the house and
literally at that point? Remember it so clearly. He said, "I knew you were going to say this," and he told his worker to go to the van and get a hammer out. So I was a bit thrown back. I was a bit shocked. I was like, what's going on here? And then he just barges past me with the hammer once he's got it, and said, okay, I'm going to dig up my floor then. That's my floor. I put that down. I was just so mind blown by this. But yeah, he started going at the floor, and I just grabbed the hammer to stop him. He caught my finger. I sent you a picture of my finger, but cut open. I obviously grabbed the hammer off him and then took him out to the front door. And I said, I'm going to call the police now if you don't leave the property and don't deal with this civilly. And he didn't. He just refused to leave. He just stood in the doorway, kept trying to push past.
What you're not happy with.
And I don't want you in our house until someone's here to deal with that.
So
what are you doing?
To take up the wood that we've laid, he's not happy with it. He said
no one's happy with it.
Job.
It is a terrible job. And that's the opinion of two professionals as well. You have no right to be standing in our house at the moment. You can wait outside in your van until the police come.
I came in with you. All I'm saying, if you're not happy with it, I'll take it up and I will take my seal off.
What are you going to do with our pieces?
What do you mean?
The pieces that we saved.
Keep it here. You can have it. They're yours. But if you're not happy with it,
so if you're going to take it up in a professional way,
yeah, I will.
Then we'll wait for the police to come.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You were in here with a hammer, pushing me and shoving me.
I didn't have a hammer. I took the hammer out to do the job. How am I meant to?
I've asked you to stand outside and wait in your van.
So it was you that called the police?
Yeah. In the end, it was the only option. Otherwise, I didn't want to force him out of the property and get myself in trouble. I didn't want to push him out of the property. Even though it was our house and he was refusing to leave, I just thought, he's not going to do anything to me. I've got the hammer under control. That's fine. I wasn't scared. I wasn't threatened by him or anything.
You weren't scared?
I don't think he was going to turn on me with the hammer. I just think he was an upset tradesman that wanted to get back his work that he had done, i.e. our floor. He wanted to dig up our floor and take that with him.
I just want to weigh in and say that I think this is the wrong way to go about it. It's very amateurish. And if you were really confident in your work, you would be taking the client to court, not destroying your work.
They just seem like cowboys in the way that they were acting. In that, if the customer's not happy, you dig up the floor. And at one point, I even said to him, if that's what we need to do for this to end civilly, then I'm happy for you to dig up whatever you think you've done, but you have to do that under supervision of police, whatever. So he took me to court, obviously, because he wasn't happy that we didn't pay. But I kept saying we'll pay, but he wanted to charge us full price. He had sent an invoice after that for a price that we had never, ever discussed. And I even offered to pay them the price that we had agreed at the start. They definitely...
You agreed to pay them what they originally charged?
Yeah, because my parents just got worried about repercussions and them knowing the address of the house. So they were like, let's just do it. Let's just pay them. But they didn't want it at that point. They wanted everything and more. In terms of how it went, they try and figure it out with a mediator on the phone in the middle, seeing if you can come to some sort of settlement. So they wanted to do that. But I actually said, I don't want to do that. I'd rather it go to court so I can just show the full case and exactly what happened. It went to court. In the first instance, it was just struck out. The claim was struck out because I think they had failed to submit documents on time. So it was automatically struck out, which they then appealed, and their appeal was granted to them. So we went to court and it was a phone call, and the judge just absolutely ripped them apart. And then after 20 minutes, the judge just says, just looking at the case as a whole, I would advise you to stop trading under this name. You're clearly not capable of doing the work that you were hired to do to a reasonable standard. And I'm striking this case out again. and that's final now. You can't reappeal it.
Nice.
It was a pretty. I was quite nervous at the time because you just don't know which way a judge is going to go.
Did you have to pay them anything? You ended up paying them nothing, or?
No, I mean, I lost money and I lost a lot of time filing different documents and sending them out and posting them recorded and all this stuff. But I didn't have to pay anything in terms of fees or hearing fees. That was all on them because they opted to go to court, not me.
But you didn't have to pay the contractors any money?
No, nothing.
No. So they could have had some money and they caused themselves a lot of hassle and got no money.
Yeah,
that was
exactly.
Really clever.
They wanted all the money that they thought they deserved for the work that they did. And like I said, I would have happily paid them if they had been civil, and I would have paid them something to walk away knowing that I have to get this work redone, and they didn't want it. And I offered that to them on multiple occasions, even after the fact.
So what have you learned from the whole experience?
The one thing I've learned is that just find an expert in a specific field if you're trying to get something specific done. It's weird, like, and it's happened a few times where you just learn what a craft something is after something's gone wrong. So even with my car, for example, in detailing, I took it to a local detailer's and it came back with a few scratches, and then you look it up and you realize, okay, detailing's an art in itself, and you have to go and find the right person who's got these qualifications and these accreditations. And it was the same in your situation. Within the first day, I just Googled how to sand a floor and your channel came up. And then I just got into a wormhole of watching your content. I just realized this isn't something you can just do on a whim. Like, it is an art form and it is a craft, and you have to have relevant experience and accreditations. And yeah, I would now always just make sure I find the right person. It wasn't even a case of we were trying to be cheap and find the lowest price or anything, because we paid the fair market price to that company. It was just find the right person.
I'm glad it went the right way in the end. The big question is, where is the footage of me putting the horrific work right? Well, you can find out exactly what happened by clicking this video right here. Or if you want to know what happened when I took my customer to court and I didn't know he was a lawyer until we were in court, then click this video here.